And we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. Let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining me today. So, today is May the 19th, 2023, on a Friday afternoon. So, hopefully, we could settle down on a regular schedule. I've been flip flopping on a Friday or a Saturday afternoon. But we'll see how it goes. But anyway, in this week's episode, we'll be discussing some interesting things that's been going on, and more so than the first one regarding ownership of things. The term ownership is you're supposed to own something when you buy it with your own hard-earned money, and now companies are finding ways to circumvent that approach by tying up with softwares so that if you need to get it fixed, you have to go through the main company rather than go to third party repair shops. That's why right to repair should be an important aspect to any individual owners or buyers or consumers alike. So we'll take a look what's happening here and what's going to happen eventually in the future. Next is we're talking about YouTube's way to generate revenue is by relying on its ad revenue, right? Where you see there are sometimes skippable, unskippable ads. Now they're transitioning to televisions to accommodate more revenue from the advertisers themselves to give you roughly around 30 seconds, even longer, which is kind of annoying, but that's business in a nutshell. That will generate billions of dollars for the company. Anyway, segueing now to automotive, wherein electric vehicles, in particular in California, has been growing, rise in popularity to the point that even businesses has to adopt to using electric vehicles, not more so than haulers or trucks that hauls items from long distances that use combustible engine. Does it make sense? And implementing such this, will this have dire consequences? So we'll take a look at that and some local news. Or in offices here in Metro Manila, there are concerns regarding the vacancy that's been happening now. Obviously, we've somewhat past the pandemic of sorts, so we're in a sort of new normal that we're encountering here. But the problem is businesses hasn't gone back the way pre-COVID years back. So we'll take a look at that as well. And finally, stay tuned for the last part when we discuss Google's phone, meaning Google's Pixels, has now an additional use aside from being used as a typical smartphone device, can be used for your transportation needs as a dash cam. So stay tuned for that part. Anyway, so going back to our headliners, as mentioned, wherein owning a product used to be a joy to own, whether it's home appliances, cars in particular, and even obviously lately with the invention of smartphones. But slowly but surely, companies are trying to find ways to monetize the experience and earn them extra hundreds of millions or billions of dollars here. And in such cases, could that be detrimental to the experience of consumer, or are they going too far here? So here, according to businessinsider.com, let's take a look here. The death of ownership is already here in a sense. So technically, when you buy something, you don't actually own the item. You're just sort of renting it because you're paying a subscription fee, and that's, I think, going way too far for my taste anyhow. And obviously, unless more consumers rise up and don't agree with what the companies are doing, then obviously the companies will continue to capitalize on that. So let's take a look here. So companies are taking away your ability to actually own the stuff that you buy here. So what does this mean? So according to the article, Andy Harding, who has been running a small electronics repair shop, Salem Texperts, in Salem, Massachusetts, for the past 8 years now. He mentions that he does steady business fixing phones for college students and nurses from nearby hospital. But soon after the release of iPhone 13, way back in 2021, Harding noticed a minor change to Apple software that he thought might shut down his small shop for good, which is a looming concern that's not going away anytime soon. So he mentions here one of the most frequent repairs he does is one of the biggest revenue drivers is fixing cracked iPhone, which is typical normal wear and tear. Obviously, being responsible in the usage tends to break down with any case. But Apple added a new feature to the latest model that would detect when the display was swapped. So meaning normally you just go to any store or any repair shop that can do this as long as they have the screens that's compatible to your device. That should be an easy peasy experience, right? So now it's not the same anymore. So including screen repairs and then they disable the Face ID feature, which is one of my key concerns here. And that's why having more features in your devices, items that you buy, on the onset looks appealing to many, but there are attached caveats to it, as in the case here with the iPhone devices here. Now it's mentioned here people pay good money for phones with Face ID, which is obviously a feature that people are willing to pay, and they want it to work, which is understandable. But according to Mr. Harding, mentions broken iPhone screens are the number one repair for shops like me. I couldn't survive without that part of the business. But what's the problem? So what Apple did was Apple rolled out a software update that allowed Face ID to work after a screen repair. So meaning the phone still warns users that the screen is not genuine unless they use an Apple authorized repair shop, which is who determines who is the authorized repair provider here. Is it the Apple Store here or some third party authorized repair center here, which is kind of shady here, and I'm sure you many Apple user who has experienced this has problems when you go to the actual store because obviously it benefits them to charge you more and in some worst case even offer you a bad deal in terms of rather than get it fixed so you can use it for longer period. They would ask you to make a brand new purchase replacing your product altogether, which is we should be given that option whether we want to buy or want to retain our old item. So meaning here, Apple isn't the only company that put restrictions on goods that people have bought already. So other devices, other technology. So as long as think of it like this, if you buy items that has technology incorporated with it, that has software attached to it, say like as mentioned, Apple, you have Samsung, even televisions. Eventually, if it comes to that point, look at Tesla vehicles, right? Tesla is heavily leveraging their software patent that will protect their interest if there's something wrong with your vehicle and you have to go to their actual dealership here. But it used to be that we should have that option if we want to go to a dealership or to a third party repair shop who is more than capable of fixing the device. But obviously, if the software locks certain individuals or groups out, then you're left with no choice, which is I don't think that's to the detriment of any consumer here. And as mentioned here, as more devices in our lives run on software, manufacturers have started to exert more control over their products even after customer has taken them home. And in some cases, company force customers to use their repair services, which what Apple does, disabling the product if they try to fix it themselves, which is, I think we should have the right be able to do it. Now, whether we fail at fixing it or not, that's our choice here. And obviously, the company can convince us not to do it and get obviously experts to fix our device. But the mere fact that they are limiting our options or choices in this matter, I think it's a big no-no for those companies who's raking in billions of dollars every year. Anyway, so it goes on to say corporations are asking or requiring people to pay for ongoing subscription, which generates them continuous revenue to access basic features on certain goods, which is should be given. Remember, it used to be when you buy smartphones that the charging break is given and the headphones is given. Now it's not. Apple was the pioneer in doing away with that. And what's their excuse? To be more environmentally friendly, but with their Lightning proprietary cable, which they're still not doing away with it, and Type C is more prevalent. So how's that environmentally friendly? And then you have older bricks that has lower wattage, which can cope up with current requirements. So there are inaccuracies with their statements and how they're implementing those strategies, which is kind of confusing. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to customer support here, or Apple users here. If they continue to buy their products, I think they'll continue to do whatever they want to do to their own best interest here, which kind of sad since you bought an item, and now it's as if when you bought something, you technically don't actually own it, even if you bought it at an exorbitant price, which is kind of concerning and pretty disappointing here. And so meaning you cannot try to fix it yourself, DIY it in a sense, and then obviously other things that you could ask other third repair services to help with the task here. So we'll see. Can it will get worse, or will there be will they receive backlash here? Only time will tell here. Anyway, yes. Let's see in the message here. Colorado State in the U.S. passed last month the right to repair law on John Deere truck. Yeah, actually, if you're a farmer who uses John Deere tractors here, again, they use. So when you buy their tractor machines to do for farming purposes, which is fine, right? You pay premium dollars for their equipment. But the problem is the software attached to it. They ensure it so that you're locked in with their ecosystem, so you don't have any choice. So if it breaks down, it's one thing that if they want to do that, as long as they provide the service that we want, that's why the third party will always have its place here in our community, because main companies' priority is to sell you more new products. So it's not to their best interest to get your items fixed. So there will always be opportunities for other groups, individuals, or in this case, third party repair to be their sole focus in providing that service here. And until more people speaks up in the case of whether Apple users or even farmers in general, then the companies will not will not stop doing what's to their best interest, which is obviously somewhat contradictory to the desires of their customers here, which is kind of disappointing here, which has been proliferating for quite some time. And it used to be decades before there was the same problem here. That's why the right to repair was enacted in terms of home appliances at the time. Companies were not so keen on giving the schematics of the items here if it's broken. That obviously initially, if it's under warranty, you get it fixed, whether it's a dealership or the manufacturers themselves. But if it's out of warranty, then what's left for the individuals or the owners to do about the situation? So you should have that option, whether to go back to the manufacturer and get it fixed if they can do it, or have someone else get it fixed. And that was the scenario there. That's why I think it's a full circle now with the different scenario, instead of just the schematics of the hardware part, but the software part. I mean, it's obviously a somewhat of a scummy tactic in a sense, if you think about it, because how does this benefit the user? It only protects the interest of the company and makes it harder for the users to benefit from their product, even if you're using their products in the first place. Kind of ironic if you think about it. So we will see as to how this develops, and especially looking at Europe's apprehension for what Apple has started with the Apple App Store, the 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 the, the doing away with their lightning cable, and they're still trying to fight it out. So we'll see how that pans out. Anyway, segueing now to YouTube, as mentioned earlier, YouTube's main source of revenue, as mentioned, is obviously as many who are using the platform currently or watching this video, they rely on advertisements. So normally, when you watch videos online, you tend to see whether it's a skippable ad, whether it's 5 second, 15 second, and whatnot, and that generates them a significant amount of revenue for their advertisers here, where they direct them whatever product service they're offering to the many user who's currently active in the platform here. And obviously, for us users who use it for free, we're stuck with that dilemma here. And obviously, trying to grow a business, giving them more leeway for advertisers to promote their products or service by offering a longer ad in terms of 30-second ads. So let's take a closer look here. So it mentions here, according to TechCrunch.com, the YouTube is bringing the 30-second unskippable ads now to television. So it's pretty interesting that obviously trying to bridge from the online platform to traditional laptops, desktops, smartphone, whatever the case, to now to more traditional forms, which is television. And actually, what's interesting that YouTube or Google has forayed into sports by buying a significant chunk of TV airtime, being able to watch NFL football games in America, which is very lucrative for the sport, which means the popularity is still rising. So giving options for many football fans to watch it in any shape or form, whether it's traditional streaming services, TV networks, or in this case, even online in YouTube itself. So let's take a closer look here. So YouTube is making the service more appealing to TV ad buyers, as mentioned, the advertisers, with a new ad offering by the company will introduce a 30-second unskippable ads on connected TVs, which will replace the two 15-second consecutive ads that run today when our advertisers target top videos through the YouTube Select program here, which obviously they make a killing out of it, but it's pretty interesting that they're always finding ways to generate more revenue for their platform here. Now, YouTube Select, which was launched way back during the pandemic 2020, has been part of the company's ongoing efforts to cater to marketers who want to ensure their ad dollars are going to high performing but also brand safe video content. So obviously, YouTube or Google in this case is using their platform to connect advertisers who's trying to sell you a product using their platform and connect to the actual potential buyers, not just general buyers, but high probability or high clienteles that they're talking about that would actually convert that advertisement to actual purchases, which is, I think they're getting close to that aspect here. And obviously, with many content creators trying to promote, bake their advertisements within their videos, makes a compelling case to even viewers to aspire to buy their products or services that they're promoting in this aspect. So YouTube advertisers will be able to target their campaigns across these videos with longer 30 seconds ads. Now, obviously, 15 seconds is a bit long for my taste, but obviously giving more time for advertisers to promote their product has a significant impact on the retention of many viewers. Just like if you're watching in regular TV networks, wherein after you watch a TV show or a film where there's a commercial baked into it, now obviously it's longer than 30 seconds, but the longer the advertisement, it should technically register more or better for the viewers themselves here. So obviously connecting your device to your TV is pretty significant here. And what's interesting here is ad experience come with on the heels when the Nielsen report found that YouTube, excluding YouTube TV, was the only streaming service in the United States that was growing its viewing time. So meaning there's high potential because of the growth as mentioned. You have Netflix and Disney Plus, HBO Max, Prime Video, Peacock, and Hulu either declined or stayed flat. So meaning the YouTube platform is still growing in terms of its market share hold on its platform, of its popularity, of its billion daily users that they generate. So it was mentioned here that YouTube viewing was up 1.5% from March of late March to late April of 2023, or an increase of zero point 0.3 share points here. So it's not significant, but nonetheless, a few points increase here, or a fraction of a percent is still pretty significant if you're trying to grow a business, and this will entice more advertisers to promote their products and partner with YouTube here. So doing away with typical traditional TV networks, which is even more expensive. And now, if you go to YouTube platform, you'll get direct to the doorsteps, technically, to the actual potential buyers that they're looking for here. So it's pretty interesting here. Let's go back. Comments. How shall companies navigate the right to repair law when obviously they need to gain more profits every year? Or what's the end game of endless consumerism? Or will it plateau like the smartphone? Well, actually, it's pretty concerning. That's why you have to innovate your product, because what they're doing here now is trying to control from end to end point of the cycle of the product, from the manufacturing to selling you the product to the back end, which is when it breaks down, the repair portion. But it will only generate them a minute percentage of their revenue. At the end of the day, it's their core product, which is, like in the case of Apple, selling you a brand new item on a regular basis is what will generate the revenue. That's number one for their smartphone. That's why they don't want to piss off many of their users there. Otherwise, it could backfire significantly. And another, in the case of Apple, actually their app store is what's making, and it's a cash cow for them, because obviously with the many billions of users that I think 2 billions, if I get it correctly, the billions of users that they have, obviously imagine they're buying, using the different apps, whether it's games, leisure, entertainment, whatever the purpose may be, generates them even more revenue. And this encourages more developers, publishers to join the platform, to entice the users to make additional purchase. And obviously, Apple has a cut in all of those transactions, 30%. Not bad, right? And obviously, it's not a perfect platform, because obviously of those nefarious individuals who prey also on the gullibility of many individuals, thinking that the platform is a safe haven here. And obviously, Google Play Store is not immune to that as well, just like with any platform here. And obviously, is the money that's generated here protecting the interest of the users, or is it just padding the revenue of the company themselves, which is obviously hard to tell here. But it comes with a lot of issues here, because what they're doing here, it's not going to be sustainable, because there will be a tipping point in terms of when consumers get to the point of no return and stop buying your products. Then what do you do now, right? Now they haven't reached to that point, but do they want to reach to that point? And think of like what happened to Nokia. They were one of the most popular brand phones way back in the 90s, and yet they became complacent. Other companies took over. In the case of Apple, Samsung, even Huawei were able to penetrate the market, which Nokia had a stronghold in that marketplace for so long. And now they wasted that opportunity. And again, if those lessons are not learned, well, history will repeat themselves. It's just a sad fact here. But we'll see. I mean, obviously, at the helm with Tim Cook, shipping, managing, staying the course here, always looking forward. What Bill Gates, Bill Gates from Windows. No, no. What Steve Jobs started way back. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it has grown now to where they are now, which is pretty remarkable if you think about it. Yeah, seeing some innovations versus vaporware nowadays, like Tesla. Yeah, but the thing that they're doing is they're trying. It's like how microtransaction works. They're trying to get you hooked on certain things, thinking that you will be hooked and keep on buying their products, which is unnecessary. Because if you're a smart person of smart buyer, you would only buy what you need. And if you're not given basic features that you tend to get before, then obviously it will cause a lot of strife and discontent from your user base or customer base, which is a wrong decision, because you want to ensure you take care of your customers, while at the same time generating maximum revenue, right? So if you produce top products here which will entice more customers to buy your product, which in turn, it's a win-win scenario here. But what's happening nowadays is, you notice, they tend to focus on the company themselves and not help the customers who's been supporting them for a very long time, which is kind of disappointing, because it is possible for both parties to benefit, not just be self-serving here, which is what's happening here with many companies that you've seen here. That's why a lot of customers are disappointed. Are there any other options? We're stuck with one or two choices here, which is kind of difficult to shift, which is what Apple is betting on. That's why if you're in the ecosystem, you're stuck in the ecosystem. It's pretty difficult to move away. Anyway, another example with the next topic here, as mentioned, regarding going electric for vehicles, right? Tesla has been the pioneer in this movement, right? But obviously, a lot of manufacturers has been following suit, creeping in on the market share of Tesla, and in particular their market share in, I think we've discussed it in the past, their market share in California in the United States has been slipping slightly. That's why they were trying to offer discounts, which is still pretty expensive if you ask me personally. Anyway, so with the popularity of electric vehicles, even now politicians are stepping in, requiring businesses, big businesses at that, in particular the logistics part, where you're transferring goods and services cross country in California, who's pro EV, are requiring those businesses to shift their combustible trucks to EV vehicles. So imagine, a small vehicle requires, a certain amount of battery, and how can it be sustainable? Will they be able to supply all the lithium ion batteries that they need to supply, let's say if we were to replace all our vehicles currently worldwide? I don't think we have enough resources. The nickel, the how it's being sourced. So how can that be environmentally friendly? Where we're depleting, destroying our natural resources here, which is kind of ironic. And even if they're using electricity here, how the electricity is being powered, guess what? It's still using coal as a means to power up many of our power plants, yeah, unless they're using nuclear energy, which is, you know it brings up, the disaster that happened, a natural disaster at that. But nonetheless, you could just imagine the worst case scenario at Fukushima, and then you have Chernobyl, to name a few. So that's why, let's take a look here. And it was mentioned here at arstechnica.com, truckers are caught on the front lines of the California's EV push. Even here in our local setting here, governments are requiring the public utility vehicles, or PUVs, that they convert, or they move forward and leave the traditional jeepneys to an electric minivan that they call it. I don't know how they call it. And the problem here is, obviously, uh, our setup here in our country is totally different from other nations. And the question is, uh, is it is it convenient? Is it practical? Is it a long-term solution, or is just a temporary application here, which is sort of problematic and complicated? And imagine hauling items here, and if your truck runs out of juice, obviously, as mentioned before, if you want to adopt electric adoption of electric vehicles, you have to have that vast infrastructure here. And as of right now, you can just ask Tesla owners. They're having difficulty. It's not the same as, combustible engine, where if you're looking for a gas station, it's readily accessible in your area here, even if in highways or in provincial area. But in electric vehicles, there's limited charging here, and that's another issue that I have a problem with, where their charging takes a long time. It's not as if you could just refill in just a few minutes and then you're on your way. So a lot of apprehension, a lot of issues here. So I don't know how's that going to manifest. And until that's addressed, I don't think the adoption will be that as smooth as everyone would like to be. And I don't know if it's even practical here. Even companies, car manufacturers like Toyota is, still betting that traditional combustible engine will still be the way to go, or at worst hybrid will be the way to go, but not totally sold on focusing on electric vehicles in general here. So who knows? I mean, that could change anytime soon, but still, with the way that's currently, our climate here, with the finite resources, even fuel, right? The fuel that we need for our vehicles is also finite. So either way, I think having options is ideal. Letting the consumers decide at least. I think that would be the better approach until obviously in a few decades time where people are more comfortable owning an electric vehicle, but not in my lifetime. I don't see myself owning a purely electric, maybe a hybrid to be more fuel efficient rather than just fully electric here. Anyway, segueing now to our local news as mentioned, the situation here at Metro Manila is getting worse, as mentioned. Regarding the office vacancy, what would think that since the normalization of after the pandemic, the situation would normalize and would be back to pre-pandemic, but that's not the case here. So let's take a closer look. So according to philstar.com, Metro Manila offices vacancy expected to worsen by end of 2023, which is not going to get better or worse. Now, for whatever the reasons, maybe people are still in their work from home setup, the hybrid setup. So there's no need for additional offices here, which obviously saves company a lot of high utility costs, rental costs, and so forth. So let's see here. As mentioned, vacancies in offices in Metro Manila improved in the first quarter. But Colliers Philippines projected this would worsen by the end of 2023 as take-up remains anemic. So meaning they're very careful on whether to make that investments here. And obviously, when you do, rent offices, it's a yearly lease, a long-term lease that you have to incorporate in your expenses here, which is obviously as of right now, a lot of businesses are still struggling. And if they're doing well and don't want to make that risk in terms of just investing or looking for a new place. Some are trying to move to a cheaper place. I think that would be a better option rather than going back to those very high expensive rents. Anyway, Colliers mentioned that attributed the projection are based on two key factors: slower take up and completion of new office spaces in the country's economic center here. So that may hold true. It mentioned here the office vacancy in NCR inched down to just less than 19% in the first 3 months. This was slightly better, showing compared to 18.8% recorded in the final quarter of 2022. So, according to the Solicitor General in Makati Central Business District and in IGT Solutions Alabang, they mentioned that among the notable transactions in quarter one 2023 included spaces leased by Telus in Quezon City, work able in Ortigas CBD, Office of the Solicitor General in Makati. So obviously there's very limited spaces there, and it's pretty expensive obviously for the uh, ideal prime place for many businesses here. But obviously, cost is a major consideration for many businesses. And what's interesting here, businesses and firms temporarily vacated office spaces in Metro Manila as pandemic forced remote work arrangement in 2020. Okay. Now, despite marginal improvements in office space uptake in months that came, the national government was keen on sending workers back to offices to revitalize an informal economy that benefits from foot traffic in urban centers. Well, obviously, with the rise of cases, vaccine, what do they call this? COVID cases. That's why it was very important that majority of population, or ideally the entire population, was vaccinated, so that things like this would not be a problem moving forward. Because if people got sick, this would affect operations of the business. Then why would businesses invest in renting or leasing offices here? And until all of those are settled in, a lot of informal businesses will be affected, and it's not doing any good to our economy here. And what's interesting, according to the data collected by Colliers, new office space built in the first quarter amounted to close to 50,000 square meters. Now, the firm expects this figure to amount to a little over 500,000 square meters by the end of 2023. So that's a pretty significant chunk here, and obviously that's never good for any parties here. So we'll see. Anyway, for our last topic, I was mentioning that Google has now an additional use for their smartphones here, which is pretty interesting. That a smartphone can be now used, or their smartphone in particular, can be now used for dash cams here, which is pretty interesting here. For a bit, wait. And we're back. Sorry for the interruption. Anyway, so we were talking about that Google has now added a key important feature, which I think should have been embedded in many car manufacturers, wherein when you buy a car, it's now commonplace for backup cameras to be utilized when you're parking. Now, obviously, for the front face, you need dash cams. You have to buy it separately, and I think they should have been incorporated with all vehicles long time ago, which is kind of disappointing. That's where they could generate more revenue, right? Offering different packages so that you can record what's in front of you to avoid accidents. And if there were to be an accident, at least it's caught red-handed, whether whose fault is it, whether it's the driver or someone else in that manner here. So according to 9 to 5 google.com, as mentioned, Google will soon let Pixel phones double as dash cam. Now, there's always advantage of being able to use your smartphones, but obviously there are downsides to that in terms of the where do you store your recordings. It will eat up your storages, and obviously the lifespan, the battery of your phone will be depleted quickly unless you're connected to a charger, which is again you have to pay for an extra to be able to do that, which is I think it's a missed opportunity for many car manufacturers. And I've seen in other countries wherein the backup camera is commonplace now. But here in our country, you have to pay for the premium model to be able to get the features. And I think that should be standard. That I don't have problem paying for their services. Now, obviously, not a subscription base, but paying additional premium to be able to have that feature. And if it breaks down, at least you can go straight to the car manufacturer and get it fixed or replace it with third-party items here. As mentioned here, rather than needing to buy sometimes a pricey dedicated gadget, as mentioned, you should be able to use your Pixel phone as a dash cam for your car following an upcoming personal safety update here, which is obviously a good idea that you could use. But again, obviously, the main caveat here, I think the car manufacturers has dropped the ball here, which I think they should be the ones pioneering or be at the front of offering these services here, not just transitioning to electric vehicles for many car manufacturers, offering better mileage for the vehicles, better features, and in terms of safety, obviously outside of the seat belt, having rear camera sensor or even front-facing camera, in this case the dash cam, I think it should be built in and not rely on other technologies here. And even online stores that I've seen who are offering dash cams don't even offer the reliability, the features that we need. That could it record continuously, and where do you back up your data, and how can you easily get the data? Is it easily utilized? If it's damaged, is it reliable cost wise, and all of those things comes to the picture here, which is problematic still. Anyway, yeah, yes, so we have a message. Wondering about how local rent business and call centers will affect our economy versus OFW abroad, bringing dollars as the global economy is going. Well, actually, those are different scenarios. But for local businesses, obviously they're trying to find ways to survive for those who are significantly affected. But for those big businesses, they have the resources to stay afloat. Now, for the call centers, well, that's a different problem there in itself, because if you think about it, call centers is a outsourcing services that they offer, right, for other nations. But the problem is eventually that will become obsolete. It will become automated, where ChatGPT can replace those services here with automated services or robotic artificial intelligence, and that could significantly, hurt our our employees here's employability. That's why you have to always innovate and upgrade your skills here, so you become indispensable. Now, on the other hand, the office OFWs bringing in dollars, I think that's still going to continue and that's going to support us. But the problem here is we rely too much on it, which means that we are not self-sufficient internally in our borders. That the fact that we have to rely on remittances to support what we're needing here, which is kind of disappointing if you think about it. And the valuation of many nations, whether it's the dollars, the yen, the renminbi, the pounds, or whatever the currencies, tends to fluctuate over time. That's why that can have severe impact in our trading value and so forth. But guess what? Our value is not as high as compared to other nations. So any value that we can get will always be a boon or a plus for our economy here, which is, we still need a lot of work in that aspects here. Anyway, so going back, so the feature that the Google Pixel is offering seems to be impressive, well thought out, and looks essentially ready for launch. But using a smartphone as a dashcam has a good side and bad side here. Whether you want to use it now, I've tried that when my family and I went on the road trip last year, and I was using it for map purposes, to going from places to places, and then from time to time I would try to record the trip, which hopefully I could start my secondary channel to showcase that part. But the problem here is obviously it affects the performance of your phone, battery wise, and capacity, as mentioned earlier. So there should be a better solution here. I think you could use your phone as a temporary solution if, let's say, your device, the dashcam that you're using currently, is broken, or there's a problem with the device that you need to find something to replace it with temporarily, but not as a long-term solution. Otherwise, and imagine your phone is being utilized 24/7 as it is. It's already hampering your battery performance. So I don't know how's that going to turn out for your overall reliability of your devices if you tend to use it heavily for other purposes. Now you can take pictures and photo from time to time, but I don't know how's that going to affect the reliability if you tend to use it on a daily basis. Imagine if you're going to work, commuting, using your devices for recording purposes and whatnot here. But we'll see. Anyway, I think that's about it for this week's discussion. Anyway, if you find this content entertaining or interesting, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to help continue supporting the channel as well. So leave your comments down below and let's start a discussion here. So meaning, we always talk about a lot of interesting things, some positive, some not so positive discussions, but we're always trying to be optimistic. Hopefully those problems can be rectified. That will benefit everyone, but not just some people. That will always be ideal here. I think everyone can have a slice in the pie here. I think that's just my opinion here. Anyway, come back again on hopefully Friday for more business focused live. You can also check out my other videos on Mondays for Monday checklist and Wednesdays for business update. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.